Hey everyone, so I got an OPXY yesterday and I am absolutely blown away by it. This is by far their most deep instrument in terms of sequencing, in terms of sound design, and it's up there in terms of sampling, though I don't think it's quite as complicated as the OP1 field, though it does have some advantages over it. One of the biggest changes for me was actually that they basically made this OPZ and then they let us make projects. You can load projects, save projects, make project folders, rename projects, and each project has its own MIDI setup, has its own allocation of voices and polyphony, and has its own time signature. So this just off the bat is very improved. Each of these tracks can fit any instrument on it. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to look at these audio tracks right now, because there's a second page full of things like effects and the tape track, but we're just sticking on the first page for now. So I just put a basic 4 on the floor here. Gotta turn off the metronome. Let me bring up a snare. I could go here and I could adjust that pan either on that individual voice, or I could go to this mixer page. And at this point, I can see these 3 tracks. I can make the third track my active track, and here I can change its volume. I could mute it, change its panning. I could change its sending to FX1 and FX2. Why not? Now, one thing I showed in my last OPZ video, actually, before I even knew that this thing was coming out, or what it was even, I talked about using the punch-in effects, and I'm going to do that again here before we get into a little bit more detail. So I'm going to go over to our punch-in effect track, and this is what the display looks like, and it's pretty cool, some of these animations they have. So I can now, instead of holding like shift and track like I'm used to, I can adjust the step length by just pressing this button, this bar button. So I can adjust the step length, but I can also hit plus and actually add a second page here. So let's just record this as a little bit of this. And so the real crazy thing, if you use the original OP1, is I can use my step components here. I can have this first part repeat, a few times before it even moves on. Now, that's not something I would normally want to do in this case, but I just wanted to demonstrate, like, that is a huge difference. A couple other huge differences I'll talk about before we move on. There's improved effects, improved tape track. The I/O track is super awesome. I haven't done much with the MIDI track, though I have created some MIDI tracks on the audio tracks. So let's talk about that next. Let's actually talk, instead of MIDI tracks, let's go back to the audio track. Let's add a bass. So as I'm browsing this, I can go for category or engine. I'll go for the bass category this time. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to go ahead and man, I wish I would have recorded that. I'm gonna go. Let's try to make this 2 pages, and let's see how this goes. I need to make this slower. forgot that I've got multiple pages. So I'm just going to delete that last page. Now we've got this. And from here, I can also adjust quantization. So let's just turn that off. This is the engine page. And I can sequence some of these changes. Now, they're locked to the step, so it's not going to record that super smoothly. So you can see it doing some of the changes, but it's per step, so it's a little bit slower. We can change the LFO per step similarly. And we've got this filter here. I'm going to go back here and let me adjust the width of the instrument. Oops. Maybe that doesn't make the same difference I had hoped, but I don't know. Now let's go over to another synth engine and let's just pull up, let's actually just look at the engines themselves this time. So let's look at the engines here. So we have this Axis engine. And this looks very OP1-like to me. But there are a few differences. So here we have the same amplitude envelope, but you also have a filter envelope. And that's going to control this filter on this next page. Okay, I went on a bit of a tangent there trying to figure some stuff out. I brought myself back to reality. On each track you can add an arpeggiator, but it's not as flexible as it seems to be on the OPZ. Like, I haven't figured out a way to step sequence the arpeggiator, but there may be a way because I was learning this without the guide. Let's listen to the Dissolve engine. So they have a multi-sampler engine. I haven't yet figured it out, but this is just really, really cool. They also have a bunch of different stuff that they've had different versions of before. Like, this looks a lot like Dr. Wave. But I actually like these synths way more than I like the OP1 synths. And that's just me, but like, yeah, these are awesome. Last thing I'm going to show you is that I find this just pretty wild that you are able to... Let's open up a drum kit here. If I wanted to, I could go, let's just screw around with this. Let's just move to Scene 2. And for all these tracks, I'll just make new tracks. Well, I guess that wasn't necessary, but let's just, yeah, let's just bring it. How do I do that again? There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and on track 4 here, I'm going to make this a little different. I'm going to modify this slightly. So just like I was saying, this has the kind of standard OP1 field kit, but something you can't do on the OP1 field is replace individual samples and record over just individual samples. So let me show you what I'm able to do with this. It's not going to be impressive. Well, I mean, it's just going to be stupid. So it's clearly meant to do this because you record by holding this button and you move between keys by using this. So it's clearly meant to make it very quick to be able to sample. Oh, let me turn up that threshold a little bit, and here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to the instrument page, and we're going to just modify this. And it's not dissimilar to sampling on the field. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that off. Make it loud. Turn on the filter. Pitch it down. And let's see what can I undo that? Cannot undo. Yeah, I don't know what you can undo. Okay, so let's do this next one then, just for fun. Okay, I'm gonna give this a... Oh, but this is for the whole track, isn't it? Not just per note. That's fine. Okay, so let's keep editing this a little. That's not quite right, is it? So let's... Okay, so this is just going to be imperfect, but let's just... why not? And I'm just going to put it there, make it there. So we're hearing the performance track, which is kind of cool actually in the background there. Let's add a couple effects while we're here. Oh, another thing I want to say is that if I wanted to, I could just add an existing recording to one of these steps if I really wanted to. I could. So this is me picking the step, and this is it saying like kind of what that step should be, you know, snare drum 1 or whatever. And I can go through all these samples, and I can put whichever one I want onto there. I just can't get over it. I just think that that's incredibly cool. And I am just barely scratching the surface here. I have hardly played with arranger mode. I've barely touched the mixer. I've done almost nothing with the arpeggiator. And I am just kind of over the moon about this. I know that this was kind of like a bit of a tease video, but I'm really excited about this thing, and I am spending a lot of time just trying to learn it and get the hang of it, and you know that this is going to become my main instrument, and there's going to be a lot more videos about this. So please look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.